Welcome to the Get Up and Scale podcast with your host, Kaapro, Justin Buzzi. We are diving into some of the latest and greatest news here in the tourism industry. We're talking private equity and some of the brands in the franchise industry that are taking the industry by storm.
I gotta work, grind. That's just the way it is. I gotta get up, scale, and grow my biz. I gotta scale, grow, get up, go, scale, grow, get up, go.
How are you guys doing?
Doing great. Middle of the year, halfway done. Had a good first half of the year. I'm pretty happy about it.
4th of July week.
Yeah, I feel good. I'm been very focused the last few weeks. Seems like our efforts are working, which is always feels good, and have a lot of momentum. So, yeah, I'm really excited.
While our customers are out there on our experiences this week, what do you guys like to do personally for 4th of July? You more like cookout people? Do you go do something, travel?
Oh man, I like to set off as many possible fireworks as I can and hang out with my dogs so they don't freak out over the fireworks that I'm setting off.
I'll send.
I got kids now, so sometimes try to see fireworks with them, although it's a huge hassle with the stroller and everything like that. So we'll probably grill out in the backyard and see if we can look in the sky and hear some noises or see anything when the fireworks go off. Probably have the neighbors come over, our next door neighbors.
There you go. That's the move. And
Drink
Justin,
non-alcoholic beer.
Ayo on that dry streak. Same here. Justin, can you fire off the fireworks in Florida, the ones that go in the air? Or are
Oh
you
yeah, you can do whatever you want here in Florida.
I love it.
The news headlines reflect that. Florida man.
Speaking of news headlines, we're starting with our first article. That's our segue. Florida man starts tour. No, I'm kidding. Just name Justin. We're looking at an article here from PE Hub, why private equity firms like investing in franchises. So many franchise businesses are family owned and still founder led and are within industries that we believe have good long-term tailwinds, but are very fragmented. And that's from Orangewood's Alan Goldfarb. So have you guys seen like definitely venture or private equity get going into the franchise industry in general? Have you noticed it for the travel industry at all?
We haven't heard of very many deals within the travel industry. There's not a lot of franchises in our industry. I mean, Justin, how many can we name off the top of our heads? Right? There's
Total?
me, City Brew Bus, City Brew Tours. There's Pedal Pub. There's definitely a bunch of escape rooms that I don't know really well, but I know there is quite a few escape room and axe throwing franchises. But in the tour space, I don't know of very many.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's hard to even know if we add those axe throwings to the tour space. It is an activity, but it's not really a tour. So I think like tour specific, there's probably from my knowledge, less than 10, something like that.
What do you think that is, Justin? It seems like franchising tends to happen organically in any industry where you have a scalable business model where this money be made. Why is it taking so long, do you think, for franchising to catch on for tours specifically?
Yeah, I think one of the big reasons is that a lot of people that start tourism businesses are not inherently business people. They're people that are doing it for the lifestyle side of it, and they only want the one or maybe two locations that they can live the life they want to live and be the guide and be heavily involved in the business. And I don't know, from my experience, it feels like there's not a whole lot of business people that are coming into the tourism world knowing, okay, we're going to scale this and grow it. Even for both of us, we didn't necessarily start thinking, okay, let's franchise. You started thinking, let's scale, but it's not, I don't know, it's not like a big thought because maybe there's no big industry leaders. There's no Chick-fil-A of the tourism industry right now. There's not a lot of thought into franchising. I think there's probably a lot of other reasons.
Yeah, I mean, the fragmentation is number one, right? Like traditionally, these are
Yeah.
locally owned businesses, like you said.
Yeah.
Majority of entrepreneurs are lifestyle entrepreneurs. Although on the flip side, those tend to be industries that are most ripe for franchising because that really describes what an ideal franchisee looks like, right? It's someone
Mhm.
who wants to start a local lifestyle business but doesn't want to have to do all the back office stuff. So, you would have thought that someone would have got that idea sooner. I also think that it's niche enough to where franchising is difficult compared to normal industries. Like if you compare it
Yeah.
to any food service franchise, it's like you can open up in any place in the country. So franchise development is like really straightforward. You can open up in any county, any zip code. For tourism businesses, the markets tend to need to have specific characteristics.
Mm.
And I think that hurdle has been intimidating for a lot of people, maybe that considered it because they're like, there's only so many markets I can go into. And it's difficult to identify the specific markets that fit this business model. Something that works really well in one city might not work so well in another city.
Yeah. Here it says, franchisee businesses that operate in fragmented sectors where there are long term, non cyclical tailwinds and both organic and acquisitive growth opportunities can be attractive. So, do you think there are challenges, but our industry, there are opportunities for franchising and more than just what we're doing? I would suspect.
Yeah, I mean, I think of just any tourism business, and I'm like, yeah, you could replicate a walking tour, you could replicate a food tour, you could replicate a ghost tour, you could replicate a lot of tours in our industry. I think there's definitely a lot of opportunity for it. It's just the CEOs of those companies, are they ready to do that? Are they ready to take on debt to turn their business into a franchise? Are they ready to go and sell franchises now instead of selling tours? It is a big change in your work in general. I went from giving tours to hiring a tour guide and kind of managing the tour guides and managing the bookings to, okay, now I've got to find franchisees, to, okay, now I've got to train franchisees, to, okay, now I've got to oversee franchisees and help them grow. So it's like you've got to be the right kind of person also to want to go and do those things. It's not easy to add that much extra work to your plate. And like I started out to be the tour guide. I didn't know that it was going to lead to this. Thankfully, I am the kind of person that enjoys growing businesses and entrepreneurship and all of those things, but you really got to be the right kind of person to take it that far.
Thinking about it, I think a lot of it has to do with the low barrier to entry in this industry too. You think about for most people, at least on its face, it seems like it's pretty easy to do this. You know, kayak tour, paddle boarding, walking tours. It also a lot of them don't take a lot of capital. And so I think a lot of people think I'm going to just do this and the natural tendency is to want to grow corporate stores to expand that way. And maybe they think because there's a low barrier to entry, that franchising is going to be difficult. Like, why would they pick a franchise when anyone can buy kayaks? You
Hmm.
know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so I don't think that's correct. I think franchising adds a ton of value in this industry. I also think technology has played a role too, because our industry traditionally has been very low tech, very
Hmm.
local, right? With the rise of reservation technologies, I think that's really enabled franchising to happen in a really efficient way. Now that 90+% of our business is e-commerce. I don't think it's a coincidence that really when that transition's happened in our industry, everyone's using booking systems all of a sudden. Everyone's using digital marketing to capture their customers rather than walk up. That
Yeah.
franchising is starting to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, well said. Let's take a look at some of the fastest growing franchises. Let's see if we can find one in this list. There's a lot of food oriented ones, cookies, Philly cheesesteaks, Jersey bikes. But let's see. I see the Dream Vacations. What's this?
That's
So it's a
interesting.
travel agency. It's a business travel agency that offers deals to travel related businesses. To provide vacations, cruises, other travel services using proprietary system.
Hmm.
Looks like they have 1,800 units.
Mm.
But look
Wow.
at the initial investment.
Very
Yeah,
inexpensive.
very low.
Very inexpensive. I would imagine this
Very
is like
cool.
has low unit economics and a low startup cost, which is partially what's allowed it to grow very quickly. It's
Yeah.
probably a home-based business. Definitely very
Yeah.
interesting though, because you think about
Very.
travel agencies, and most people don't use them anymore. They're using online travel agencies, OTAs, but people keep talking about this comeback of the old school high touch travel agency. So that's interesting.
I knew Crumbl Cookies was going to be up there. They've opened like hundreds and hundreds in the last year, 2 years, and their CEO is only like 32 years old. I think he's my age. And so, yeah, they're doing some really interesting things. I've been seeing them all over social media with their weekly like cookie
Mhm.
releases and people trying their new flavors every week. And I don't know. I find what they're doing to be pretty interesting in the way that they're marketing, at least to the consumer. I see influencers all the time doing like, here's our weekly flavors, trying them. And I'm trying to think like, how do we follow suit with what some of these bigger, franchises are doing with their consumer marketing? And, obviously I don't have cookies for people to try, but is there something else that people can do when they come to our locations, or even like my stickers program, the loyalty
Mhm.
program? I kind of think that is like a little similar to that. Yeah. What are the things that you can take away from some of these big ones? Even just the experience, like going into the store and how their staff is greeting you and that kind of thing. I feel like there's a lot of takeaways from some of these bigger ones, especially the ones that are growing.
It's wild. I've never bought a cookie from a specialty cookie shop, but I see them opening up everywhere.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of franchises that do this, I feel like. So it's wild to me. And I guess I get the appeal. Like maybe I'm just not a cookie guy. I feel like the DoorDash thing is really impacting them too. Like they have this new channel, customer channel that way.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, what is it about it that, you know, we look at like the top 10 here, and they're all very different industries with very different initial investment costs, probably very different unit economics. I'm curious if you guys notice anything in common about these brands. I mean, you have things like Taco Bell and Jersey Mike's. They've been around forever.
Yeah.
That's all brand, right? And execution. And then you have some of these newer ones have these really low startup costs, right?
Cleaning businesses, travel
Mhm.
agency. Yeah. There's a lot of service-based things on here.
Yeah. Those are interesting to me because I feel like there's some the tricky ethical things with those sort of franchises, right? Like it's one of those where my suspicion is that a very small minority of franchisees are making the vast majority of the revenue. I might be wrong,
Hmm.
but it's easy probably to sell a franchise where you only got 10,000 in startup expenses. But how well are they actually going to do? How well does their system actually do?
Yeah. I have a friend who was a CPA and they just bought a H&R Block franchise and her life hasn't changed very much. She just got plugged into a whole system. But you essentially get a territory, you get like some technology, but at the end of the day, it's just like being a part of that big network. It was
Have you guys run into at all any conversion franchise opportunities yet? Meaning someone that's already operating a similar business to yours, maybe has the assets already similar to yours, but just wants to become a part of the system because you guys have the system, the customers, the everything set up. I find that it's a really interesting way to grow your franchises, conversion franchising. And I've reached out to many kayak tour businesses to try and get them to become a get up and go kayaking. I haven't had any luck with that so far, but I'm curious, have you guys like gone down that rabbit hole at all?
Yeah, in fact, I believe we have 4 or
Oh,
5 conversions in our network right now.
interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, our industry is pretty niche and we already had a big reputation in there. So, especially in the early days, I reached out a lot to a lot of our contacts and tried to offer them a sweetheart deal essentially to join and kind of listed the value proposition and we had great response. I think we've done, let's see, 2 paddle pub conversions from independent operators and 2 or 3 trolley pub conversions. It's something that we're going to look at doing more. The value proposition for them is very different than new franchisees.
Yeah.
And so we're thinking more and more about what value we can offer the total newcomer to the industry, someone new to tourism, the tour and activity industry. Maybe they've never even driven a boat, right? Like that to me is really interesting. And that works really well in the franchise system. But I also think about what sort of value can we add as a bolt-on concept? Because almost half of our franchisees own their own tour business. We are trying to specifically market our franchise as well to be a great bolt-on to their existing tour business. We don't touch your existing tour business. If you're running boat tours, if you're already in the industry and doing that, we want this to play nicely right alongside of it. And we have a whole system to make it easy to add this brand with the website and marketing system already built in. The training is there, and you can run with it.
Interesting.
I'm trying to even make that case even stronger. It's like, how do we get, there's a guy in Destin who's, I think, the largest operator there, who reached out recently about buying a tiki boat. And I'm like, how can I convince somebody who's doing millions of dollars and knows what they're doing that this still adds value to them? Right.
Yeah.
And so that's something we've been thinking a lot about recently. So we can get more like that, not just conversions, but also bolt-ons.
Yeah.
Do you have any franchisees that own other tour businesses?
Yeah, it's all completely new, but I think that's a huge opportunity. I'm coming to them with customers, with reach, with traffic up to the website, with marketing opportunities, so many things that if they already have a lot of these infrastructures and staffing in place, a bolt-on could be a really unique opportunity, especially if I were to bolt on from some of the boat operators that you have. It's like now they could do kayaking and vice versa. You guys could find kayak operators that are ready to take the next step, and maybe a tiki pub or a trolley pub or whatever is that next step. So yeah, that's definitely really interesting. Something I want to spend more time exploring and figuring out, because I think that's a huge missed opportunity for me now.
Why I like it a lot is that exact point you made is they already have a lot of the overhead covered. So this is going to be a really high margin addition to their business.
Yeah.
You
And
usually have
upsell, like
customers-
cross-sell,
when you have excess inventory on one side or the other, like it works really well. It is complicated because they own a different business that's not your business. Is like, are they taking business away from the franchise business?
Yeah.
Are they applying your system to their business? You know what I mean? Like you're teaching them your secret sauce. It's tricky, but I feel like we have it figured out. I would say I think you're like, what you've done best and probably the way you've grown is through like your organic social presence with people. Our like secret to why we've grown so quickly is probably just really aggressive networking within our industry. Like I just cultivate relationships everywhere with competitors, with people in the same space. And that's really what's like brought people to us more than anything else we've done.
And grow my biz.